That was an awesome first episode of Survivor Season 50. I got a lot I want to talk about, so I'm not going to waste any time. Let's just get right into this. Before I can even start talking about gameplay and how everything started to play out, let's just talk about the first opening 10 minutes of this episode. I'll start off by saying that I'm not a super fan of Survivor. Now, I'm a fan, but I'm not one of those fans that can name every single player of every single episode and name off all 49 winners. I'm lucky if I can name 10 to maybe 15 winners that have ever played and won the game. So, okay, I started from season one and I was hooked because it was cool. I really enjoyed it. But this opening segment was so neat because it was literally just a flashback from 50 all the way back to season one. So it was so bittersweet to see players such as Ozzy, Coach, Sari, these players just getting off the boat. Jeff starts talking to all of them, and it's just fun and nostalgic to hear some of the likes of Jenna and Sari, Colby, Coach talking about what Survivor did for them up and led them to where they're at now. And again, just before we start getting into the fight of the game itself, especially Colby, who, if you remember, he was a young buck in season two, and then he came back at Heroes versus Villains, and he was just a different player. And so this one, he's being that kind of that dad mode now, which is pretty cool. Immediately after that, Jeff says, "Hey, let's just get into this, man. We break up the tribes." And if you were like all the other crazed fans, you were doing research, every little bit of nugget finding you could find leading up to this first episode. And we found that the team names was Vatu, Kalo, and Celia. Sela, hopefully I'm saying the names right. And immediately we're gonna get after this first challenge. Now we haven't had a theme from 41 to now, so there's a little bit of a theme being in the hands of the fans, which means if you know this, I don't got to explain it too much. We all got to vote on what these players are gonna have to go through. So then we're gonna have to fight for everything, fire, supplies, everything. And this very first challenge is just that. The challenge is nothing spectacular, nothing crazy. But man, is Stephanie just a bad son of a gun or what? I mean, she just didn't look like she lost a step. And she went against Savannah, who literally was coming off of 49, just beating everyone. And she left Savannah in the dust in that first episode, first challenge. So, I mean, Stephanie, she doesn't play. She hasn't lost a step. She's just phenomenal. Wins that challenge. So they get fired. They get Flint and they have this big old bonfire at their camp waiting for them. And immediately after that is this next challenge for supplies. But this is a one-on-one challenge. So each tribe's got to send a representative to go fight for some supplies. So it's Coach, Ozzy, and Q are going to go compete for some supplies. While those three dudes are headed off to an island for their challenge, we cut back to Sela and we see Savannah open up and tell her tribe about her win in 49. Now, I don't know if that was really smart, but I can see why she did it because she doesn't know how well that Rizzo is playing what's going on over there. She's hoping that he doesn't share info, or he probably might be because he's got to play different because he's playing with who's played way more than he has. So his game may have to be different. So maybe she's trying to cut the head off before it blows up too much and it bites her because she didn't share information. But I don't know. I think she should have held on to that bit of info for just a little bit, or unless someone flat out asked her, "Hey, how did you do? Did you win Survivor?" I mean, for me, I don't think I would have told anybody that I won unless they flat out asked me. But let's just talk about Jenna, man. I mean, she just comes out of the gate guns a blazing. She doesn't waste any time setting, the her sights on Cerise, saying, "Hey, we need to get her out. She's the most dangerous social player here." Her story is great. Once Ozzy, Coach, and Q get to the beach, Ozzy and Coach decide to squash their beef that had been stemming for, I guess, 15 years. Because, yeah, I mean, sure, Ozzy might have costed Coach money, but Coach says, "Hey, I was right there. You were on the jury. Pound the flesh." I love that analogy he gives. And it is what it is. Again, it's just one of those things where these dudes are older, a little bit more mature, and the way they played before might not have worked so well, but how else are you going to learn unless you go through these things? This challenge is actually pretty fun to watch because, as you saw, it's literally one key that these three dudes got to fight over. And of course, they've got to get a key and that gives them access to the box for their supplies and whatnot, and the other two are losers. And but it was interesting because Ozzy, he was a challenge beast back in the day, so he had something that he needed to prove, and he didn't hold back. He went right after it, and once he got to putting this stick together to get the key, which was just insane because they must have found the skinniest, flimsiest pieces of bamboo, and they put the key way out there. That I don't know how long his stick was that he had made, but I like the way coach literally just sat back and was like, all right, he's going to do that hard work. I'm going to wait till it gets close and then I'm going to snag it. Now, online, after all that, from last night to today, a lot of people are all mad. Oh, that's dishonorable or whatever. But some of you forgot that Rizzo did something very similar on the very first opening challenge when he was copying other people's puzzles instead of doing his own. And everyone said, oh, it's Survivor, it's gameplay. He's doing whatever he has to. There's no difference here. And before anyone gets on here and says, oh, he's trying to play this honorable integrity, what, it's still Survivor and he still got to play. And I like Coach. He cracks me up every time he's on the camera because he's hamming it up for the camera and he knows it too. And he just, I love the dude. So long story short, halfway through that challenge, we see Ozzy favor his back. And I'm pretty sure he strained it because as this episode goes on, you see him favoring his back, trying to stretch it. And again, it's just one of those things where it just sucked to see. And once it got close enough, yeah, coach snagged it and he won the key, and which left Q and Ozzy there as the losers. And the crazy part for those two is that they had to spend one night there on Exile Island, which was rough, but it is what it is. But it was interesting because as coach was walking away, he says, I'm going to play honorable, but I'm going to cut throats when I have to. So his game has evolved a little bit. Once coach gets back to the island, him and Chrissy start to form this little bond. And Chrissy lets it be known to coach that she wants D gone because, hey, she's already won. What does she need to be here? And Chrissy has got to play it a little differently this time. And she knows she has to. And coach is, yeah, you're right. Let's team up. And then we see two other alliances forming both with the Sela tribe and the Vatu tribe. The one tribe alliance that I think is going to be very dangerous is the alliance of Devins, Christian, and Emily, because I don't think anyone's going to see those three coming out of nowhere because they're not necessarily physical threats and not necessarily social threats, but they're nice people, but you don't necessarily think of them as very sociable, assassins. But I think these three are going to be the three that are going to pose a big issue as this entire season wears on. But who cannot giggle at Devins and Christian broing up with each other and wanting to be friends, but not make it all awkward or whatever. And they go back to like middle school. Hey, will you be my friend? Circle yes or no. It was just really cool to see them be kind of awkward with each other. And they bring Emily in, like I said a second ago. And I think that alliance is going to be dead. Over on the Vatu tribe, we've got a very powerful tribe of five, but we'll get into what happens with those five with Colby and Steph and Genevieve and Kyle and Q, which is a very formidable alliance if they can get through this thing, which I don't know if they will. We'll just have to see. But one of the strange exchanges was between Aubrey and Genevieve because they both are kind of the same type of a player, sociable, but very strategic. And you can tell both of them were holding their cards. They were trying to get the other one to say something. It was literally the staring contest, who's going to blink first, and neither of them wanted to do anything, and not even flinch to give the other person any sort of angle to go on. So immediately they're already doing this, and it's only like the first day. So that was really cool to see them just who's going to blink first. Over at Exile Island the next day, we have Q and Ozzy waking up, And as they are getting ready to leave, the boat shows up and gives them a pot and says, hey, one of you can get some supplies, but one of you is going to have to. So the dynamic is, and you saw this for yourself, one of you gets the pot and pan, the pot and pan, the pot and the machete, but you lose your vote. The one who gives it up gets an extra vote. This is going to benefit Ozzy a lot better. Plus, he's got nothing to lie about. All he's got to go back and say, he's like, yeah, I lost the challenge. I don't have anything, but I still got my vote. He just doesn't tell anyone he's got an extra vote. Then back on the Celia tribe, man, I'm going to say that name right at some point. Celia tribe. Devins lets Sari know that, hey, Jenna's coming after you, which catches Sari off guard because it's like, really, it's like day one and we're coming after each other already. She's again playing that hard. But if you remember Jenna from before, the last time she was on the show, she did something very similar where she was telling everyone, hey, let's get all the winners that have already won money off of here. And it worked for her before she ultimately got kicked off. But so she's going with that same type of a mentality, which, as you know, doesn't really benefit her too long. And we see a couple of other little alliances and teams starting to form together. But one other team that's going to be very dangerous, even though I said we've got the Devons, Christian, and Emily trio over there, another trio, another duo that's going to be a handful is going to be the Aussie Sari. Ozzy, as we know, as we saw, goes to Serene. They start talking. It's like, hey, you're my number one. You're my number one. Let's ride and die together. He lets her know about his extra vote. And Ozzy's being honest because he's always played a physical game. That's been him. That's been his MO. But as he's gotten older, he may not be as fast, may not be able to hold his breath as long. So he's got to just tap into that social game. Well, who else then to go with Sari, who has a very strong social game, who knows how to use things like extra votes and all this stuff to use it to her advantage. So Ozzy's smart. Let's team up. And she's like, yeah, let's stick together. Then you switch over and you see Jonathan talking to Coach, and D is on Jonathan's list as well. So now D has got two people, possibly three. Coach hasn't really said one way or the other, but you got Chrissy who wants D gone, and now Jonathan who wants D gone. So some of these younger generation Survivor players, I'm sorry, D, who's already won, has got a target on her back, and now that Savannah has let people know, we're willing to guess that they're going to start to target her as well. And then you have the team of Dee, Tiffany, and Camilla who decide to join forces. And out of that, the Camilla angle was pretty interesting because she reflected on the last time she played with Kyle. She played a very honorable, honest game, and she kind of let it be known, it's like, I don't want to play clean, and I want to get my hands dirty. I want to beat some people up. So, which is cool. I like to see some of these players come with a different mentality and play a little different. Now, can she do it? We'll see as the season goes on if she can make those hard decisions where she'll be nice and immediately just stab someone right in the back. Then we cut to the immunity challenge. And the challenge itself, it doesn't really stand out as far as anything that we haven't seen before. Go through some mud, get a couple of locks out of a thing to get a lock box to put this 50-piece puzzle together. So nothing stands out from the challenge itself, other than the fact that it took Sari forever to throw that monkey's fist, which sucked for her. A lot of people online were saying, why did she want to do that if she's never been good at challenges? And those people might not have seen her on Australia versus the World Survivor, where she had a similar challenge and she actually had to throw monkey's fist and she did really good. So in her head, why not do something I've already done before recently, not too long ago? I should be able to do it again. But the difference was is that little rope barrier gate that was in front of her that was throwing her off. But when it's said and done, Kahlo wins and Vatu wins, and they're ecstatic. But it comes at the cost of Kyle getting hurt, and we learn later on it's a ruptured Achilles he has. But we'll dive into that in just a second here. And then we cut to the team dynamic in the Sela tribe, where Jenna basically says, hey, we need to get Sari out. And she even tells Ozzy, we need to get Sari out. And of course, Ozzy's like, oh, we don't want to get her out. And that's where Jenna's trying to feel out Ozzy. Do they have a connection? And she's putting it together. Yeah, he does not want to get rid of her. But it was interesting the way all of them were talking about who to get out first. Should it be Jenna? Should it be Cerie? Should it be Ozzy? Which was the three prominent names that kept coming up. And when they go to tribal council, we all know that Jenna actually gets voted out, and it's not even close. To everyone voted her off with 6-1 vote or 7-1 vote. Only Cerie only got one vote from Jenna. And in rewatching it, if I caught it the first time, but for those who didn't, Christian actually made a very good point when they were pushing, some of them were pushing for Suri. Like Joe was reflecting when he played, he's like, look, I got a TV wedgie when all of a sudden I didn't realize that Kyle and Camilla were working each other. I see the same thing with Ozzy and Suri, and he's his little spidey senses were tingling. But the difference was is Christian was saying, look, if we do exactly that, we're gonna end up playing Jenna's game, because then whose name is she gonna say next, and we're all gonna get behind her. So I think that that was the turning point in this whole thing, because when you think to this tribe, and this is what I said a few minutes ago about this dangerous trio of Devon's, Christian, and Emily is going to be a lot to handle, because they're already an alliance of 8, right? And you've got Jenna, who really doesn't have an alliance. She's kind of throwing names out there, but you don't see her aligning with anybody. And you have Savannah, who's, again, doesn't really have anybody. And then you have Joe, again, he's kind of by himself. And then you got these three that are saying, well, this is what I think we should do. And of course, Suri and Ozzy are together. So you immediately you have that 5-person thing going on right there with against the other 2 that are saying it, with 3 technically if you include Jenna, but I think the trio is what drove that vote to be what it was. And I'm going to call it right now. If this Sela tribe has to go to tribal council again, they're going to turn and get rid of Savannah for a couple of reasons. Then one of the more interesting things was, if you were like me, this Billie Eilish boomerang idol finally showed up. And when we first heard of it coming in the trailer for this season, all of us, and myself at least, was like, what the heck is this? Is it going to be trash? It's actually kind of interesting from the fact that Genevieve and Steph are out looking for it, and Genevieve finds it. The premise of this idol is pretty cool, because you can't keep it for yourself. You have to give it to someone else in one of the other tribes, and you can use it so that person protects himself to build alliances for later on, or they might be dumb and hold on to it, or tell somebody and they get voted out. But that idol doesn't go home with that person. It boomerangs right back to Genevieve, and she can do something else with it. So it's interesting on how to play it. But I'm kind of curious, because she ends up giving it to Ozzy. And what she doesn't know, of course, nobody knows outside of Ozzy and Sari, is that Ozzy already has a vote. He has an extra vote. So now he's not only got an extra vote, but he has this hidden immunity idol, and he has to use it on himself. He can't give it to Suri or anything like that. So of course, we know he's going to tell Suri. So that's making that duo very, very strong, because now they got the extra vote and they've got this idol. They can do whatever they want with it. So it's gonna be interesting. And the only reason why Genevieve is targeting Ozzy, because Ozzy has gone home with an immunity idol one other time in his career. So she's banking on possibly that happening. Then we go to this journey challenge where 3 players get to go off on this journey to compete. And Mike White, Colby, and Savannah go off to compete. But when they get to the island, only 2 can compete, and ends up only being Colby and Savannah. And they have to do this Jenga-like puzzle where the winner gets to keep their vote and the other one loses their vote. And it's a neat premise of an idea of a puzzle, to build the puzzles how you can and whatnot. And Colby actually ends up losing to Savannah. But different from Colby from back then, is like he lost, had a smile on his face, high-fived her, hey, good job, or whatever. And this is the one time that, even though I didn't necessarily have an issue with Savannah before, I kind of like, oh, come on, what are you talking about here? She looked up to Colby growing up as a young fan and whatnot, and during her little confessional, She's like, I kicked his butt. I'm like, no, you didn't. He just put something too, he was heavy handed when he went with that last puzzle piece and he did it in on himself. He didn't do anything. But she does earn a block a vote that is given to her once Kobe leaves. And once she gets back to her tribe, she tells everyone, yeah, we had to compete and one of us was going to lose our vote. And that's all she said. She didn't tell anybody that she got this block a vote. But she forgets she's playing against a lot of players who have played the game in the full format, not this 26-day format. And they're all like, yeah, right. Come on. You got something in your back pocket. We just don't know what it is, but we're going to find out. And this is where I was alluding to earlier is they're going to target her next because not only is she's already won because she told them, but now, unless she flat out tells them that she got this block of vote, they're going to say, okay, we're going to get rid of you because we know you came back with something in your pocket. You're just not telling us. And that's why I'm saying they're going to get her the next time they have to go to tribal council. But the one thing that's going to be interesting, because after that, Kyle has a visit from the medical doctor and he's got a ruptured Achilles. And, I was cringing when the doctor was squeezing on his calf muscle because when it comes to Achilles, I tense up because that's such a thick tendon. And for that thing to get ruptured or snap, whatever, that's so much pressure to snap that tendon. And when the doctor was squeezing his leg, I was so tense because one foot was moving. He would try it to the hurt foot, and nothing was happening. And you just knew that it's not going to work out for poor Kyle. But let's just talk about the what was the 5-person alliance of Colby and Stephanie and Genevieve and Kyle and Q, because they've now taken a massive hit. Because not only is their 5-man crew now cut down to 4, but Q doesn't have a vote now, so they're only technically 3 votes strong. One of the interesting dynamics of this whole episode was old school versus new school mentality of playing this thing, and it was captured pretty in a nutshell by Rizzo, as Colby is doing a lot Hunter in the Gathering and doing all the stuff that 40, 39, all the way to number 1 of seasons. That's what you did. And if those people are doing that, you don't get rid of them because they're doing all the hard work. You don't have to. This new era, Rizzo says it best. He looks at Colby and says, hey, you don't got to do all that because that's not even as important anymore. If you are new to this channel and you like what I did here, consider hitting that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, helps me out quite a bit. So until next time, go check out my other videos. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, follow, and all that other good stuff. But more importantly, I'm going to leave you with a quote that Mike White said during this first episode. He said, and I quote, "If you get an amazing opportunity and it lands in your lap, you are a fool not to take it." Take care, guys.